So, starting a live video here. Part of my workshop mission is to bring all of you into the experience. When I was young, I really cared about how well my board lasted, how well my board felt, and Jason Shannon Powers, good to have you with me. John Zander, boy does it feel good to have friends with me here in the workshop. You ask anyone, starting with Jim Gray, what it's like to work in. Jared Nelson, good to see you. I'm really glad. Sean Tierney, old friend from high school, good to see you. Jerome from the Nederlands, it's good to see you today. I keep thinking of all my Nederlands. I took some small courses in Dutch when I was young. My wife, her parents are Dutch. They're not with us anymore, but I think they still exist on the other side, and I always refer to them in the present tense. Don't work too hard. Oh my gosh, Sean Tierney, that is the least of my problems. The problem I have is, I don't know if you guys know this, but I'm going to quickly adjust a light real quick. I don't do a lot of talking about this, but one of the issues here in the workshop as a one-man gig, and I think this is really common among creatives and craftspeople and things like that, is when, and also entrepreneurs and independent production people, that a lot of times when everything hangs on you, you start to find the cracks in your own constitution. And one of the things that has been particularly active is being healthy. Taking good care of my body has become a major important thing, and I found that enough sleep, and I can't eat sugar. I really do poorly on a carbohydrate diet. My body aches, and I incrementally, gently put on weight over years. I know you guys probably know I had some pretty serious surgeries. I had 2 indirect inguinal hernia repairs in 2014, followed by a 3rd direct hernia repair in, that was a very small but significant repair of the umbilical hernia. Normal to blow the umbilicus after the indirect inguinal. The indirect inguinals are really low, hidden, they don't poke out, and the surgery is particularly invasive, very, very painful. And because I had a sport repair, the stiffness and loss of core strength lasted for 4 years, inflammation, all that. People are suing about it, but around 5 years later, I am now, just by pushing through. So I gained probably about 30 pounds, carried it well, gained about 30 pounds between 2014 and 2017. And then in 2017, I was sick of feeling sick, and I went on a no-carb diet, ketosis. And I shed 30 pounds, pigging out on greens, salads, vegetables, and I'm a meat guy. Lots and lots of slaughtered creatures went in my gazi, and I lost 30 pounds in about 3 months and felt terrific. However, it was a bit radical, the complete keto, and I came off complete keto for about a year, and then in winter 2018, 2019, I did low carb after that, gained back about, 15 pounds. And this is the first skate season I'm actually going into where I'm light and low inflammation since 2012, and I'm happy about that, but I'm also hedging my bets because I also had pneumonia as a child, and I am pretty susceptible to respiratory problems. That's why I'm committed to my strong downdrafting in my spray area, and I'm putting in new downdrafts on all my tables to keep my lungs clear. I have the requisite masks and such hanging around, and a lot of times I wear them when I'm not on camera and don't have to talk at the same time. Sometimes I shoot boards with the downdraft, and that is probably not a good practice, but I'm real susceptible to the chest cold that never goes away, gets worse and worse, and then a month later you've got a serious infection, you know, and like that. So I'm in here after my big trip. I came home, I worked, and I convalesced. I'm happy with the rate of production that I'm at right now. I have a full order queue, and I just shot this deck over here. This is a custom pickup for today, and the shape, this one's wet and it's curing out. I realized today a really common thing that happens. This is for Keith King, and it's printed in the top. His name is printed in the top there. And I shoot the tops. Usually I drill them before I shoot them, but today I had to call Keith up and say, or send Keith a message. I'm waiting for his response, and say, bro, what wheelbase were we doing? Yeah, this is a sick shape. He really put a lot. He came in the shop and he put a lot of really interesting curves. He went with the knucklehead front, which is a quadrangled front, and I've got a little. See how I've got a little bit of a tiny mess in the. See that little mess I've got? That is something you're going to see on my work because I shoot the edges nice and heavy. I don't use gloss, but I shoot a lot of poly on the edges of a board. I do it from the top, soak the edge, and then when I do the bottoms, I redo the edges on the bottom too. And I'm not afraid to have a little bit of drip here or there, and I've seen the same thing in factory boards here and there in the past, and yeah, it's a neat shape. That is a custom, and he's paid top dollar to come into the shop and stand at the bench over here. Let's see if you guys can see. Stand at the bench. All my masks are hanging in your face right now. And work with me to create something that was what he wanted, pocket it up. And in all that work, I still neglected to write down his wheelbase. And what I love about that, let me show you. These are Keith's cutouts. So I'm going to take you guys off of the, maybe I can just, I'm trying really hard to work with, Amy, thank you for writing what you just wrote. I really like my boards to be tough as nails. They're stout. They're not for the faint of heart, but they aren't technically super heavy, even though they're stout because I cure them. This is the cutouts. And it's got notes on it, sweeping curves, no points here, no points here, sweeping curves. And then up in the front, keep the points up in the front. And usually I remember everything, but it is not rare for me to neglect to pull one or another small detail. And this time it was wheelbase. It's probably a 14.5. Could be a 14.25. All I want is to get it right for Keith. So I've gone ahead because Keith's, I'm meeting Keith to skate today, and I've gone ahead and shot the top without drilling his holes. Yes, not for the faint of heart. Thank you, Jacob, for your kind comments. So my only dream, you know, guys, I can't put an ad in Thrasher magazine. It's $6,000 to $15,000, and it is somewhat subject to whether you're in the right stream of thought. And I'm not convinced that an ad in Thrasher would really get me what I need. What I need is for all of you to share my work, share my videos, and let people know that there is a guy who wants to be their guy, wants to make their boards for them, and make it come out well for them. And I need you to share that because I need to be selling 200 boards a month, and there's no way to get there without help. So 15 is a magical wheelbase. At 15 inches, you've got so much more stability at speed. And if you want to perform on it, choke up. Choke up. Put your foot just behind the front truck and throw your 3-flip. It's going to come around. It's true. But, you know, I live to serve, and when somebody is convinced that they need... Now, I do have funny stories about people. I can almost tell like I did have a guy, and he wanted his board to be 8.326 inches wide, which is a super fancy of saying, it's a fancy way of saying 8 and 8 3/8. But I remember working really hard with my micrometer to get that board 8.326 inches wide, and thinking 6/1000ths of an inch. I can't live like this. I can't do this. Yes, you can't flip a fickle board. That's a happy, that's just fine. I think that there are a lot of beliefs about what you can and can't do, and skateboarding, part of the beauty of skateboarding is laying question to every single authority out there, especially retail-driven authority. And yes, 14 is a short wheelbase. Look, you know, there are some pros out there who like a 13.7 wheelbase. And I think it's rad. I think it's rad that you can have a 14, a 13.8, a 14.5, a 14.25, a 15. The thing is that you don't get to call up the person who makes your boards and say, hey, could you shoot for a 14.25? Could you shoot for a 13.7? Can you pocket this on a 13.5? You know, like these questions. You know, there's not someone you can ask. I mean, but you can ask me. You can ask several other makers now. And the thing about us makers is most of us don't have enough orders to really be like a super strong business. If you guys order boards from us, we become super strong businesses really quickly. And yeah, I don't like math, but I do love skateboards and skateboarding, and I love the numbers that way. But friends, I wanted to share with you my fun today, which is that, you know, I made a mistake. I neglected to gather from my customer which wheelbase they wanted. I shot out a whoever says that is a little bitch. Okay, Amy, Estelle, you have always been one of my favorite people. You guys, man, I love you guys. Someone, Midwest Regional, made a spoof reel of me vaping, and everyone went on there and talked about what an asshole I am and how much they hate me. And even people that like me went on and laughed at their jokes. It hurt. But you know what? This one's for them. Pour one out for the homies. Well, friends, I just wanted to share my joy in that even when I make a mistake, I can reach out to my customer and I can say, hey, and by the way, I can finish this one all the way through paint. And I am an asshole, but it's in the best way. I am an asshole. Yeah, Hey, Chris Castle. What's up with blacklisting in Indiana? You guys even have a skate shop that was tongue-in-cheek named Blacklist, because in Indiana you literally can be blacklisted. I was blacklisted out of Indiana basically years ago. I got a call from the mogul of Indiana, and he accused me of selling boards for $20 at the park, which is not even close to me. And ironically, there had been several characters that year selling boards for $20 at the parks locally here in Cincinnati. And I said, well, you need to talk to them, you know, if that's what you're mad about. But boy, he wasn't having a single piece of me. And he told me that I was out of Indiana and that I could plan on no business there and no welcome there at all. And you know what? It's actually not far from true. It wasn't long till another skate shop jumped in and they blacklisted me from public events while welcoming my team members. Talk about divide and conquer. Man, I'll tell you guys, sometimes being in the skateboarding industry, you know, you run the serious risk of your love of skateboarding getting crushed. And I started this with a comment, like if you ask Jim Gray or some of the other guys who have maintained their own personal identity, and have lived in contrast to the predominant industry culture since the 90s. The predominant industry culture is very, very, very straight down the line. Very strong boys club, very strong cool guy club, and a very narrow fashion and creativity window, as well as like very pro-drug, very pro it's a very like, man, it's hard for if you get involved and you're actually wielding any interesting if you're wielding any influence, you can wind up, some of the worst things can happen. The first thing that they did with me was in 2013, they put out that I was a child molester. That they just started right there. You can see it in black and white, that they went right to town. In my local skate shop, the owner of it jumped on and said, "This is really entertaining." You know, he really liked it, labeling a guy something that could get him killed. Happily, everyone knew there was nothing further from the truth, and I came through that. But I did wind up having to turn to Johnny Law and do a cease and desist, because also with that there was a threat, a promise to the public to strangle me till I died. And this is coming from people in their late 30s, early 40s who are in the industry. This is the kind of stuff that here in Cincinnati and up there in Indianapolis, it's really normal. You have the same kind of localism historically in California as well, and I'm not entirely against certain local pride and certain localism. I think that if I were allowed to, and I am, I'm doing what I'm doing, and I think that a certain pride in who we are, where we come from, and what we're doing is perfectly legitimate, but not the defamation, not the slander, not the illegal menace of violence or open assault. 2014, it turned into open assault, and the Indianapolis and Cincinnati both. Yeah, local stupidity is the norm. It's true. And I think skateboarding has graduated historically past a point where we're going to accept that as acceptable behavior. I think that we've grown beyond someone deciding that our crew runs the town and like that. But here we had a local crew that was bedded down in retail interest, and they shit-talked the Northside Skate Park over the counter right here in Northside for 4 years. And the Northside Skate Park is still on point for plan, thanks be, but it is despite the best effort of the local skate shop to run it down and talk it out of existence. And that really is a disappointing thing. And I think that there's something that happened this last December that just, I've been accused of creating a false narrative, but our local shop, I kept sending people there all the time. We have a few local shops here, so don't assume it's one. And this may apply to shops all over the place, but I sent a first-time skateboard buyer to the local shop. They had already gotten a deck, and they wanted to hook it up, and they would have had to order from me, and I didn't want her to have to wait. And she was super cool girl, strong. She knew what was up, so I sent her to the local shop and gave her a list of stuff she should be looking for. I told her she would probably, because of what she wanted to do on her board, she probably want a certain size wheel. She probably want to go with risers and a 1/4 inch longer hardware with a little bit of a riser in her deck, because she wanted to flow and carve. And I told her to watch out for the no, this is what you want, and then 53 millimeter wheels and Thunder trucks, and like that. I said, I gave her her thing. She made a list. She went in, she left, she bought stuff. She did wind up with 54 millimeter wheels. But maybe she got 56s, which is that's a great wheel. I'm riding Lizzie Armanto's wheel right now. I think it is a 56. That's pretty small. So she goes in the shop, she buys it from the shop, and she lets me know that it went well. And then that night at 10 o'clock, about 3 hours after, she left the shop about 7, 3 hours later, the shop owner posts up the most caustic, incendiary Facebook post about who are these first-time skateboard buyers doing research before they come in. How dare you basically not come to the shop and just buy what we tell you to. And he called it fuckery, what she had done, coming in with a list and all this stuff. And I was like, man, So I will never again ever send a skateboarder to that shop. Ever. I will not do that. In fact, I will let them know that if you go to that shop and you buy something, I can't vouch for their professionalism or their goodwill toward you, because professionalism and goodwill were out the window when the owner of the shop decided to disparage the purchasing practices of a well-informed and interested first-time buyer. I mean, it just drives me nuts. So, of course, locally, I've been castigated as spinning a false narrative. I've been branded Captain Fuckface and the worst guy in Cincinnati, a divider of the scene, a divisive asshole. You know, I am all these things locally. I get the middle finger, I get booed. It is misogynistic bullshit coming from a skate shop. Yes, it is. And calling it out as gently as I can without disparaging anyone by name, sticking to the behavior of it is really important. I don't want to tell you which skate shop it was, although the other skate shops ought to be doing, you know. And then I found out that that skate shop is hosting a ladies event. And I was like, man, talk about ironic. I hope it goes really, really well. I hope it goes really well, and I hope they've learned. And I really am rooting for them to do great work. I am. I continue to root for them. But, whoo boy, because I had a customer come in yesterday, and they came in just for a repair on an electric skateboard. They had been to another local skate shop, and they got cool guyed at the counter, and the guy was like, no, man, this is what you want. That's what that skate shop does all the time. No, this is what you want, you know, instead of what you're asking for. And I'm telling you, it's a fundamental error in culture to look down on people. If you're a skate shop and someone comes in and they want a 60 millimeter wheel and they want a 1/4 inch riser pad, just tell them you'll order it and have it drop shipped to their house for them. You're not going to lose the sale, and be grateful that they came in. Hi, Edward Pigeon, I love you. Just be grateful that they came in, and be gracious and be positive. And don't post up a tweet after they're gone complaining that they did research and that they found sources for information. Don't do that. That's really bad. Now, here in Cincinnati, you can see them come in, they'll get on my feed and they'll say, you sound dumb as fuck. You know, well, I guess sounding dumb as fuck is the new being smart as fuck. I love you guys and I want to serve you guys, and I am not a skate retailer. I'm not in this workshop to compete with skate retailers who are struggling hard enough as it is. I can order anything anyone wants. They can come to my counter, we can flip open the iPad, and I can order them up any setup they want. In fact, I've got 3 or 4 setups in a box that just came in for the customs that I've got up on the racks right now, and those customs are going to be complete and being ridden locally right here. Yeah. But I don't want to be a retailer, but I've begun to worry. Yes, over half the Groms that show up at the new indoor sessions in Memphis are girls. It's true. And I tell you, I am struggling. I'm giddy with stoke over more kinds of people skating and more of every kind. That's all that matters to me. That's all that matters. And I think that's all that matters to people who want to ride their skateboards too. My heart is broken over this stuff. And that's another influence, my productivity. The fact that I've been promised that I'm going to get smashed in the face. I've been promised I'm going to get run off the road on my bike by these local board company owners, local shop owners, local moguls, former pros for major SF brands who have nested here in the Midwest, and they try to run it like a bunch of gangsters and thugs. And I am directly impacted every single day here in the workshop by having to make sure my doors are locked, I can't let people in, by having to take measures to make sure that I can respond to force threat issues. I back every skate scene, every cultural delineation, every identitarian affiliation. I back every single one of them in skateboarding, because there's only one kind of person to me when it comes to skateboarding. There is the person who likes skateboarding and can't roll, the person who likes skateboarding and rolls a little, the person who likes, they're all skateboarders. If skateboarding is in your heart, if you just love skateboarding like a moth to a flame and ding, 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 till you die and drop down on the ground, if that's the way you feel about skateboarding, you are in the group 100%. You matter, you have a place, you have a voice, and you matter. There's no more measuring up, there's no more having to be good. You are awesome as you are. The problem with being good on a skateboard is you were awesome the moment you woke up. What you do on your skateboard isn't who you are. And it doesn't, any club, any group, any social strata that is going to require you to perform a maneuver in order to be part of the community, you should have been part of the community from the moment you decided you wanted to ride one of those things. Before you even bought one, you should have been being welcomed by skateboarding. This is happening. This has been going on. I'm not saying anything new or particularly revolutionary, but in some areas of the country, by contrast, this is very deconstructive, reconstructive, blah, 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 and controversial. I was going through my memories on Facebook, and 2 years ago today, a local guy came and called me super immature for talking like this, telling me I'm an immature person who doesn't know how to deal with it. I think dealing with it is best done by talking about it. And I am not against any person, but I am definitely against certain ethics, certain behaviors that are completely inappropriate for a community built around a pursuit of freedom and motion for everybody. And that's all right. That againstness that I'm against it with is simply a byproduct of my forness that I'm for the other thing with. It's just an existential contrast. When it brings conflict, I like that to bring conversation, not combat. Sadly, in the Midwest, up in Indianapolis and here in Cincinnati, we have very, 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 very deeply embedded 20-something year-long legacies of almost gangster-style moguls who've run their scene down, and they don't mind doing any number of a million things because they just gaslight their way out of it anytime they're confronted. And it's something I'm going to prefer to pay no attention to while I return to my work here in the workshop. Thank you guys for joining me. This has been a Workshop Minute over Keith's board. I'm going to finish paint on this board, and I'm going to drill it after and just shoot a quick shot in the holes to seal those holes up, because I like to get the sealant into the holes of the skateboard. I think it makes it just that much more. Oh my gosh, Amy Estelle, I love the way you write and the way you think. Everybody please pay attention to Amy Estelle. She has all the right ideas about skateboarding, and she has a bravery of heart and of life. She lives with integrity. And Amy, I want you to feel every piece of that. I respect you so deeply for living your life experience from your conscience the best you know how to. I don't think anyone could ask any more from anyone. And I love you all, and I hope to see you soon. And as always, hi Mom, I love you.